I call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Gambling Amendment Bill number 3, interrupted debate on second reading.
Members, when the House was last considering the bill, the Honourable Ruth Dyson was speaking and she has 7 minutes and 30 seconds remaining to speak. We look forward to her contribution.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much, and I'm really pleased to be able to continue my contribution, which was so rudely interrupted when we were last debating the Gambling Amendment Bill number 3. This is quite a significant date for the Parliament in terms of gambling legislation. I can't recall the last time that we did not have a gambling bill of some description, either on the order paper or at Select Committee. It's been a long time. It's great that we've progressed to this stage, but it is an indication that gambling legislation in New Zealand will have to keep changing to keep up with changing technology and the increasing awareness of the public health issues surrounding problem gambling. I want to commend the Minister, the Honourable Peter Dunn, for just about all that this bill contains. Certainly during the Select Committee consideration, many of the 126 submitters who contributed to this bill said that they supported the overall intention of the bill. Many had shared one single concern, which I'll elaborate on in a moment, Mr. Speaker, but I want to say that the primary purpose of that comment is to say that I think that this moves a little further in the right direction. It could have gone a lot further, and I hope the next bill does, but it certainly was in the main in the right direction. I'm hoping that all of Parliament will agree to its progress, perhaps with some changes in the committee stage, and I'm certainly going to contribute more on that in this second reading, but also during the committee stage. This is a big change. The fact that Parliament is more or less united around this bill is a big change from how divided the House was, and in fact the whole of New Zealand was, over the last government intervention into the gambling space, which was the outrageous dodgy deal that the National Party did with Sky City, where they said to Sky City, oh, well, let's forget about the law, we'll change it for you, and you can have quite a large number of new pokie machines.
It's not part of this bill either.
Pardon?
All of the Sky City matters that the member is referring to are not part of this bill. It has been kept a very narrow debate so far, and I'd like the member to continue in that vein.
Mr. Speaker, I absolutely accept your ruling. Of course, I was comparing the response from Parliament to this Gambling Amendment Bill number 3 to the response from this Parliament to the dodgy deal the government did with Sky City. And actually, I did refer to it in my earlier part of contribution on this very same reading. That dodgy deal was not supported by Parliament. The Gambling Amendment Bill number 3 certainly is. I want to refer more specifically, though, to the provisions that are mentioned in both the Green Party Minority Report and in the Labour Party Minority Report. And I trust that the Minister will give further consideration to the issue that we raised in both those minority reports, and that were of primary concern to the overwhelming majority of the 126 submitters, and that is that we agreed with the issue of the payment to pokie machine operators being currently not good enough. They're quite bureaucratic, they're quite expensive, they're not all that transparent. We thought we could do better in relation to the payments. Everyone agreed on that. The problem is that in the bill that we're now debating, as it's come back from the Select Committee, the new payment regime is not a significant improvement, and in fact increases the possibility of there being an incentive for the operators to increase the use of pokie machines. So there is the potential for increased harm by a provision in this bill, and it's that point that I hope will be reconsidered when we go into the committee stages of this debate, and that the Minister would consider the fact that we all agree that the current system isn't good enough, but that the replacement that is proposed in this bill, it will be an improvement in some areas, but it will be a huge risk of incentivising increased problem gambling and increased use of pokies, and I don't think anyone in the House wants to go down that track. So, Mr Speaker, as I said earlier, we had 126 submitters on this bill, and a very fine contribution made by a large number, particularly those organisations who work so hard in our community to respond to the harm that pokie machines do to some people. Some people are not able to stop gambling. That's a fact. Some people change their whole life and risk their whole family situation because they're not able to stop gambling. So that issue of public health and problem gambling harm was certainly a consistent message. We heard some very sad stories. We heard from some very courageous people who told of their addiction to gambling and explained to us in full public hearing the harm that they had caused to their family and what had turned their life around. They did that in an effort to make us focus on the lost opportunity that is also not in this bill, but the lost opportunity, I guess, that's in this bill, and that is the opportunity to further protect people from the harm that excessive gambling can do. So, Mr Speaker, overall, this bill moves in the right direction. That's what all of the submitters said, as well as the report from the Select Committee. We are concerned that the now commission-based payment that is being proposed has a real risk of incentivising problem gambling and increasing it, and we don't want to see that. I will be supporting changes to that, and I know that Denise Roach from the Green Party also expressed that view consistently and strongly and was backed up by the overwhelming majority of submitters throughout the Select Committee process. I hope that our concerns are heard by the Minister. He has shown an interest in listening to the views of members in the past. In fact, he and I were on a panel along with a couple of three other members of Parliament yesterday with the Business and Parliamentary Trust, and we discussed this very point, the fact that ministers generally are quite dislocated from the process because Select Committee wants to own the legislation, but actually in the end the Minister calls the shots on policy determinations. We need to get those roles better clarified, is my submission to Parliament, not a submission on this bill, but you'll allow me a little leeway, I'm sure, Mr Speaker, because Thursday afternoon you're clearly feeling more relaxed than other presiding officers in the House sometimes do on a Thursday afternoon. Some of them are much more strict, and I'm glad that I'm taking my call with you, Mr Speaker, and the Chair, rather than my colleague Trevor Mallard, Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Sorry, it's tragic that I have to interrupt, especially when she was on a roll, but unfortunately her time has expired.